Hello everybody, Void Master here. Welcome to the long overdue episode of What If Every Nation Went to War 40 years later. Yes, I know this should have been created a long time ago. I'm lazy, I admit it. Moving on. So, firstly, we got the Americas. And as you can see, the United States has finally taken out Brazil. This is huge because now millions of soldiers are going to be able to move from North America to Europe, Africa, and over to Asia, allowing the US to launch much larger operations against the other powers in the old world, and it also means they now have the full resources and economic might of the entire Western world. And by Western world, I just mean the Americas. Moving on, we got Europe, where as you can see, France is still the strongest power on paper, but is having a lot of issues as America is really creeping onto the continent. They've taken more of Western France, they've invaded Portugal, and they've taken even more of northern Germany from Denmark. So overall, it is clear that France will not be able to hold out against the Americans, and that pretty soon America will have control over all of Western Europe. However, France is not doing nearly as bad as Poland. Poland has fought hard and bravely, but unfortunately, they simply don't have the population, manpower, or resources to hold up a war for this long. So, yeah, once Poland falls, there's really only going to be 2 or 3 major European powers left. One of those European powers is Russia, who, despite doing alright in Europe proper, is struggling in Asia, but we'll get to that later. And finally, for the final European power, we have Turkey, who, at least in Europe, currently controls the Balkans and has nearly reached their territorial peak that the Ottomans gained in Europe. What is going on with my volume button? And has begun to really start to focus a little bit more on Europe now that Iran has been defeated. So yeah, overall, Europe has become America's first major landing port, and they're going to use this to attack, well, firstly take out France, and then push probably Egypt, Turkey, and eventually Russia and China. But yeah, moving on to the Middle East, it is just Turkey. Turkey finally was able to take out Iran, and now from the Indian border to the Suez Canal, Turkey reigns supreme. Also, I will be probably changing colors for a lot of these countries, especially the ones that have red. So that's why Turkey is pinky red, and you'll see some darker reds and other colors. This is just to make the map a little bit easier to look at. So, yeah, Turkey controls all of the Middle East pretty much, and they are in a prime position to begin to compete with India, Egypt, and, well, even eventually America for dominance in the region. Moving eastward, we have India and China, who are still in a vicious battle for dominance. Not much has happened, well, at least for this battle anyways, but still, both powers are tiring themselves out, and specifically China is getting extremely annoyed and even a little bit worried since as they're in a complete stalemate with India, the United States has just taken out its biggest rival in Brazil and is now ravaging through other continents. So they need to take out India fast, but obviously India isn't just going to sit by and allow this. So yeah, moving over to China. Oh yeah, and India took a little bit of Indonesia. Probably should have mentioned that before. Anyways, moving on to China. As you can see, they have grown even larger. They pretty much control all of the regions in Siberia that matter, and they're even beginning to get into Western Russia. And now we're going to have a little bit of a race between China, the US, and maybe to a small extent Turkey, of who can take the most of Russia's really useful land. So yeah, China's doing alright, but they do need to start taking out India, and the leaders of China are beginning to worry that if they don't take out India, the United States is going to begin to really start ravaging their coast. Moving on, Japan is completely starved of resources. They're just barely holding on, and even though their navy has been able to protect them so far, China is really beginning to put pressure on them, and it's doubtful that they'll make it into 50 years, or maybe even 45 if there is a 45. Moving on, Indonesia has stayed roughly the same, but now they have to start competing with India and America and New Guinea. So, although Indonesia is fine right now, you could say they're just chilling, they are soon going to be not fine since they're being attacked by 2 superpowers. And slowly they're probably going to get squished into oblivion. However, one power that has already begun to be squished into oblivion is Australia. The United States has taken all of their territory outside of their main island, plus Tasmania, sorry. But yeah, so the US is really putting the pressure on Australia because they want a forward base to attack China and eventually India. So yeah, Australia is looking like they might collapse pretty soon, simply due to lack of population or a way to actually beat the US in any sort of major battle. So yeah, finally we have Africa, which is now a four-power brawl, which is I think the same with Europe to an extent as well. But yeah, Africa is one of the least powers of the main continents, or I guess the main three now, because the Americas and Australia are pretty condensed now. There's like 3 powers, 1 power, 5, I think also 5 or 6, and then 4. So yeah, anyways, Egypt is undoubtedly the strongest on the continent. They have done big pushes against Nigeria, and they now control everything in the Sahara and even into Central Africa through this border with what would be, I think, South Sudan and maybe a bit of the Central African Republic. It's hard to tell on this map because everything's so condensed. You don't know where the former borders were, but Egypt is now beginning to push south, and their main goal right now is taking out Nigeria so they can get all of this sweet land, and then taking out Ethiopia and South Africa, and taking control of the African continent, preferably before America begins to get involved, because none of these powers have the strength to fight against America. But yeah, Nigeria is really not looking good now. They've pretty much, at least in the north, condensed to, I think, their 15-year borders, or 20 years, and they are pretty much out of, experienced troops to fight Egypt with, because they've lost a large amount of very decisive battles. So overall, Nigeria is really on the back foot, almost as much to the back foot as Ethiopia, who is also really struggling now, simply due to size and economy. Ethiopia is beginning to run out of steam as well. The only African power that isn't fully running out of steam is South Africa, who is still looking very major in the south, and really they're the only power that even has a small chance of taking down Egypt on the continent. Well, I guess except maybe Turkey. Turkey could 100% go for Egypt now, especially since they're probably not really too focused on Turkey. But yeah, as long as Turkey or America doesn't get involved, Egypt is looking in a very prime position to sweep the continent. But we'll see. One more announcement. From now on, we are going to be going 10 years rather than 5 years. This is simply because this series is going on too long. I am losing motivation, and I just want to get this done at this point. So yeah, next will be 50, then 60, and so on, and I might increase it to 20 or 25 eventually if this series still is going on too long. But yeah, thought I should let you guys know. So anyways, I'll see you guys later. Hope you have a good day and a great year, and yeah, bye-bye.